listening to Pod Radio with artist CJ.
Yeah, we launched our Kickstarter yesterday, so I've been literally sitting on the computer the whole day today on my day off from work, watching the total creep up. So yeah, it's been really good.
So to start things off, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Aaron. I am the founder and original trustee of Little Heroes Comics charity. We're a charity based in the UK, and what we do is we create and distribute comic making kits to children who are in the hospital fighting long-term illnesses.
So how did it get started doing Little Heroes?
So originally it goes back a bit when I was first diagnosed with cancer myself in 2013, near the end of 2013. And I'm all over now and it's fine. I've finished all my treatment and everything. But after finishing hospital and all the treatment, it was I was going through the phases of how can I give back? And like most people do, I would go and do charity fundraising and try and do runs and usual stuff like that. But in the end, I decided that I wanted to do a little bit more and give back to the hospitals themselves, especially the hospital that helped me during treatment. And one of the things that I focused on the most was I was bored a lot in hospital. I was in there for a long time and I ended up watching too much TV and eating a lot of food and getting fat. And I wanted to try and help people overcome the boredom of being in hospital, and especially for children, because as an adult you have endless abilities that you can do on your phones and laptops and stuff, but as children you're limited to whatever's in the hospital. And being a lover of comics and a lover of creating and this kind of ethos, I just wanted to try and make something that kids would want to use in hospitals that would help them remove themselves from what they're dealing with every day, even just for a few minutes. So that's where originally the idea was to give actual comics to the hospital, like care packages. Mm-hmm. But it turns out that in British hospitals there's a lot of legality and red tape around actually getting comics approved, and you'd have to get every page of every individual comic approved. And if you're trying to send care packages, like loads of random ones, you could be there all year. So we decided to move away from that and think about how can we still do the comics aspect of it, but trying to get around the red tape. And the thing was, let's get them to create their own, give them everything they need to create a comic, and let them create the comic rather than us trying to give them a story. So
yeah, as somebody myself who was in hospitals a lot when I was a kid, I would have found this very good, because like you said, there's a lot of boredom being in a hospital. Plus, even like reading and like watching TV can be kind of a passive thing in ways. So something like this where you're actually doing an activity seems like it would be great for kids in hospitals.
Yeah, so when I first started doing this, for me it was just giving them something to do. But as I've talked to more play therapists, which is the role we have over here who deal with the children day to day, is that it has I'm learning a lot more that it has a very therapeutic I can't remember the other word, but basically it has a form of healing and a way of expressing what they're feeling during treatment. So that's something that I'm really starting to read up on and learn about. It's really interesting to me now, and it's pushing how I want the charity and the comics to move towards that direction as well. So that's really exciting for me.
You talk about talking to people about this. Have you brought in people as it's went on to like give advice to learn from about it?
So the only people we've had a talk to at the moment is like I say, the play therapists at the hospitals that we've been sending the kits to. So the play therapists are the ones that reach out to us at the moment and basically their roles, if I understand it, in the hospitals are to facilitate like play within the hospital, so like creative art therapies and all this kind of stuff, and keeping them, I don't want to say the wrong word of like entertained, but keeping them away from thinking about what they're actually going through and trying to make it fun and trying to make it interesting for them. And so for me, it's trying to get as much information from those individuals as I can at the moment, and trying to understand for myself how this does help in the healing process.
How's it been received so far from people?
So we're rather new. We started in March of this year with the intention of only we done a fundraiser on Just Giving to get 100 kits made, and we done a pilot of 4. We just sent 4 out to a little hospital over here called Great Ormond Street, and they loved them. They were creating pictures with creating characters and drawings, and immediately we started to get other hospitals saying we want them. And before we know it, we'd already sent out those 100, and we've already got lined up in January another 250 to send out. We're still in talks with other hospitals, but the biggest thing for us was that over here we have the National Lottery, and they do grants that you can apply for, and we managed to apply and get a grant for £6,000 to create 1,000 more kits. So we just get inundated now with hospitals asking for them, and the feedback and the pictures we're getting back from the children that are using them, they're just so creative and just so inspiring to think that these kids have these imaginations that are just untapped. Like you look at what comes through, and you immediately, as someone who likes to create and flesh out ideas, you just sit there and you want to, that's an amazing character, I want to, can I steal that? So it's very interesting.
So are you getting to see a lot of the work the kids are doing?
So it's hard because a lot of time we don't get a lot of stuff sent through because parents are very protective nowadays of sending pictures of kids and stuff, but they will send us pictures of like the artwork, and that's mainly what we ask for. We say, can you send us the artwork? That's really what we want to see. And we do put that on our Twitter, and we started to upload them to the gallery on our new website that we've got running. So, but the big chunk of the ones that we've sent out are not actually being distributed to the children until January. So we're hoping in January we're going to see a lot more influx of images, which is what we're most excited about. So
now, when you talk about doing a new one, is it going to be the same type of kit, or are you adding anything to the newer ones?
So the kits have a standard that we're trying to always keep in terms of what's in them. As we grow and we get more money and we can get the cost of kits down, we just want to increase what's in them rather than changing them up. We just want to make as much stuff in there as possible. So like at the moment we give you all the crayons, the pencils, the rubbers, sharpeners, pens. You get 3 sets of stickers, like sticker sheets. You get a blank comic which has all panels already inside of it, and you get a couple of activity sheets that show you how to draw like the basic human face and shapes. So, and that's where it is at the moment, and we're hoping to grow that to a bigger, more fleshed out thing. But obviously it's trying to grow at the same time of getting costs down. So it's a fine balance.
Yeah, one of the things a lot of people face is like in any business or anything is like balancing out between big demand and still being able to do it, period.
Yeah. So we faced that because as soon as we'd finished 100 kits, we hit that problem of we've got 200 odd kits that need to go out, but we don't have them. And so that was a big worry for us because we want to be able to say to everyone that comes to us, we will give you those kits. You know, if a hospital comes to us and says, we got 3 wards, 20 each, we just want to go, okay, we'll send you 60 out, no problem. But it's all to do with quantity for us, because making 100 kits when we first done our first fundraiser came to just over £1,000. Doing 1,000 kits was just over £5,000. So you've immediately gone from £10 a kit to £5 a kit. So for us, it's being able to raise money in big enough chunks that we can do high volume, because that's where we can get the biggest discount on all of the individual components.
When you did the first batch of kits, were you thinking automatically that you were going to be doing more, or did you think like, oh, this is something I'm doing this one time, it's one idea to do?
So it's a funny question that people ask me, because if you would ask my fiance this question, she would say that I never follow through with my plans. So when I initially pitched the idea that I was going to do this charity idea, I think she didn't really pay attention, because she thought, oh, it would just be one of those things I didn't follow through with. And then I managed to raise the money, and then it became a whirlwind of, it hasn't stopped. I just don't know how it exploded to where it is now within this short period of time, where I'm trying to raise over 10,000 here and 5,000 here. And originally, yes, it was only supposed to be just, let's just do 100 kits. I send most of them back to the hospital where I was treated, and that was it. But then people started asking for them. People wanted them, and people were interested in them. So it just keeps growing and keeps spiraling, and it's not stopping at the moment.
Do you remember a specific moment of maybe something that happened, or maybe a not sales number, but a number that went out where you were like, okay, this is a real thing that I'm going to be doing for a while?
Yeah, I think personally it was when we got the grant through from the National Lottery, because in order to obtain that, we have to fill in a lot of paperwork explaining what we're doing, how we're going to do it, how this will help, and you know where the money's going to go. And up until that point, we'd only sent out 100. We were getting people just asking if this is something we're going to do, is this something and once we got that grant, it was like a moment of just, oh my God, some committee out there has believed in what we're trying to do. They believe it enough that they're going to give us loads of money without any questions and just say, please keep receipts for 3 years. So it's and I think that's where it dropped to me. It was like, when that happened and that money got into the bank account, the realization set in of, oh well, this is an actual thing now. You've got to really focus.
So it was like a little bit intimidating in that moment there of like, oh, I gotta do this.
Yeah, it becomes serious, and also because we're saving for our house deposit at the moment, so we're living with my fiance's parents, which means that all of our kit components are in our little lounge, so there are boxes everywhere. So there's also that commitment of trying to get them out of the house.
So you talked about current plans. What would you say is the current state of the Little Heroes project right now?
So right now we've literally just finished. We got one more component to buy for the kits we're currently making, which is just just a load of pencils, but we can't get those until January from the supplier. Once they are in, we are putting together the next 250, and over the next few months we shall be working towards getting the rest of the 1,000 out. But that is also alongside our new Kickstarter we just started for our anthology that we're doing alongside this as a tool to raise money. So that's basically the state at the moment. We're working hard to get the kits that we've got the grant for out the door, while trying to find new revenues to get even more fundraised.
With the anthology you mentioned, would you like to discuss that a bit?
Yeah, so the anthology is a comic made up of we've set a theme for the first one, which is called Strength, which we thought was quite appropriate for what we're trying to do. And we sent out a tweet into the web and said, would any creators out there be willing to help us create a load of short stories that we can put into an anthology, which we can get printed and sell just purely for raising money to get more kits and send them out the door. And we were just so surprised, because up until that point, no one really knew who we were. We were just, only a couple of hospitals knew, but all of a sudden we had creators all over the place willing to give their time and their effort into these comics. So we've got this anthology that's coming out, which is on Kickstarter now. It's up 67% funded at the moment in 24 hours. But it's about 44 pages, and it's got I think it's 10 or 11 different small comics in it. One of them is actually a full-fledged 10-page comic. So it's really, really beautiful, and some of the comics in it are amazing. But if anyone wants to look at the Kickstarter, it's got previews of all the comics in there on it. But we're hoping that this will be an ongoing thing that we do a couple of times a year as a constant fundraising effort. And it gives us something to show when we go to Comic Cons and have a little table, has something there to sell and introduce our brand amongst the community. So,
have you been taking your project to many conventions?
So in the last few months of last year, I went just as a patron, just to go around and get used to the scene and get to know people. But this year we've got our first one lined up, which is Truebelievers Con in the UK, which is in February. I think it's the 3rd. And we're in talks with a few others in the UK which are a bit later on in the year. But we're hoping to do at least 3 or 4 next year. More if more want us. But obviously a lot of the time it's budget constraints.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You talk about people working with you on the anthology. Have you had much feedback from the comic books community?
So we have not showed too much off the comic off yet, because we want it to be a surprise when the anthology comes out. But we have had the creators who are taking part. We've been constantly showing them and feedback from the other creators as well. And there's a small little group we follow in Facebook that we talk, which is a few select people that we chat to and show and throw ideas. And they are just loving it. It just, I don't, it's hard to explain, but even our front cover it blows me away, and I love it. So I think it's going to be good. I don't want to disappoint anyone, but I think it's going to be good.
With this project, and you said you will probably maybe do this again in the future as maybe a regular thing. Is there another way you think you might approach raising money for the project?
Yeah, this is the tough question. It's an ongoing thing that I'm still open to ideas from anywhere. I've never been one that's been amazing at fundraising for things. So I'm always surprised when I throw something up online and it manages to get even a couple of pounds. So I think I'd throw it out there and ask if anyone else has any ideas. If anyone has any ideas, email me. I'm all ears. But for now, I think it's going to be the anthology and maybe occasional crowdfunders around specific things like, yeah, we really need 2,000 kits. This is how much it's going to cost. Please help.
So, with it being a comics related project, were you hugely into comics yourself personally?
So I've grown up. I could never afford too many comics growing up. So for me, it was more of a love as an adult. And I am obsessed with a particular comic that I annoy my fiance with only buying those comics. So I do read a lot of comics, but I tend to read read all of them digitally, apart from the ones I hoard in and collect. But yeah, when I was in hospital again, it was one of the things that I read a lot. You've got too much time, and it's a good way to escape. And obviously, growing up in the last, I'm not like I turned 30 this year, not too long ago. So I've been lucky enough to grow up when the world is going mad on superheroes. So that also helps.
With the projects like this, we all know that there's a lot of charities out there, and sometimes it becomes like a tough thing to get yours, like basically not even through the door, through the little crack of the door.
Yeah.
Have you found that's the biggest challenge, just get people to pay attention to your project?
Yeah, it's a thing that I've been researching a lot about, because I don't know about the rest of the world, but in the UK, there are definitely a few big brands out there that will take, I don't know the figures off the top of my head, but you always hear it in the news where like the top 5 take up 95% of the all money donated in the country. And you just wish that you could have that tiny little bit. But when I originally started this up, I did a little bit of research into the niche area that I'm trying to establish. And there are similar ones, like there's ones that do like games, and there are other things like that, ones that give game consoles to hospitals and things like that. I couldn't really find anyone specifically that are creating comic kits. They were doing ones that were like give art materials and stuff like that. But I felt we were carving a nice little area because it was very specific on what we were trying to get them to do, rather than just here's some pencils, go and colour something in.
Well, I know, like, when I first heard of your project, I was first thing I thought, I was like, that's a great idea. But after that, I was thinking about it, and here in the U.S. where I am, and like, I don't know of any project doing that. And also, there's like comic kits that you can buy in like art stores and stuff, but they're super expensive, most of them. Like, they're really high dollar here, and like, so in most places I don't even think sells hardly any of them because they're such high dollar. So I think it's a great idea, and to be able to get to kids, because it's not something that their parents could even go out and probably afford to buy for them.
Yeah, it's funny that, because on my shelf I actually have a load of comic making kits and drawings that are the ones you can buy in the stores over here that we were trying to find inspiration from. Like, we've got a Star Wars comic making kit over there in the corner. It's very low budget. It's really horrible. We try to keep it cheap but quality as good as possible. But I agree with you, and we have been reached out from people who are and do want to buy them just individually as their kit. They want them for themselves, and that's not something we thought of in the beginning, and I don't know if it's something we're going to do, but it's definitely something we'll think about, because like you say, I think there is a market for getting quality kits out there that are reasonably priced. So, but hospitals is just a start for us. We have bigger plans to do a lot more stuff, and one of those on the back burner in like 5-year, 10-year plans is obviously schools as well. Get them into classes, into art classes. It's the possibilities of getting these into different institutions is endless, and different countries as well.
Well, I think it's a positive just seeing that you're not just looking at this one thing you're doing. You're looking to move and do different things, because that opens up new doors every time you do something different.
Yeah, absolutely. We are always listening and always looking out for collaborations. We want to work with other people, other charities, as much as we can, because the more we can get these kits out.
You still there? Still there?
Hello?
Hello? Oh, it must have dropped for a second.
Yeah, I think it did. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
I don't know what point I dropped out.
Oh, you were just talking about the more you can get kits out.
Yeah, obviously. So the more we can collaborate with people, and in any way, as long as we can get the kits out there, I'm happy for that. That was my original aim from day one. So I want to continue doing that.
When you want to do something like this, everybody knows charity work isn't easy in any way. It's never been easy. Everybody thinks it's easy for some reason. Everybody thinks, well, you're just giving and it's easy, and it's not. How do you balance that, though? The frustration of sometimes, not being able to raise the funds you need and not being able to do something that you might want to do that you think is a great idea.
I'm still trying to work that one out. For me, because I'm so passionate about it, whenever I do a fundraiser or I'm trying to raise money, it's always that, but why wouldn't you? It's an amazing idea. Why wouldn't you want to give money? But, in times when it's hard for people to give money and not everyone has money to give, it's hard and frustrating. And I'd say the biggest thing I have had since starting this is mainly legal tape. It's all of the stuff you have to do around what the government allows you to do, what you have to save paperwork, here, this, that, and everything. That has been the hardest part, is learning what all of these little laws and regulations are. Outside of that, I have found the support from the community, in particular small press community around comics, to just be just so valuable. And I think they're the ones that are actually helping me get through everything. I think without them pushing me through and keeping me, it's not keeping me on track, they just keep me motivated because I see how excited they are, which makes me even more excited. And it's like a give and take. So I think that is definitely the one way of dealing with frustration at the moment, is when I'm able to send in a chat, this don't seem to be working, what can I try differently? And you get 50, 60 different replies on how you can make it better. That's all I ask for at the moment.
When you first got these kits, did you have a moment where you sat down with one and did your own?
So I did. So I'm not a great drawer or an artist, or I can draw just a bit better than a stick man. But I did sit down and draw a few bits. But my fiance has been bugging me since we started this project to actually sit down and fully do a comic. So I've done 2 panels. I'm going to do a story of my treatment through hospital, but I'm going to do it in terms of a very tongue-in-cheek kind of war film, taking part in my body. So I've done 2 panels, and they're really rough drawings on, and they're on my Twitter, my personal Twitter. I hope to get those a bit more fleshed out and using the kits, more of the kits as I go on. So yeah, it is definitely something, but we do a lot of testing on the right products to use. And that, I didn't realize how long you could spend trying to find out what's the best crayon to buy.
Well, it's all for the children, though.
Yeah.
It's not that you're having fun, it's for the children.
Yeah, we can't have that packet because the yellow is not good enough.
Well, I think everybody should check out Little Heroes. I think it's a great project. If you want to tell everybody where they can find you online.
Yeah, so if you just search Little Heroes Comics into Google, you'll find us. But we are littleheroescomics.co.uk. We are Little Heroes Comics on Facebook. But on Twitter, we are Little Heroes Kit. And that's because Little Heroes Comics was taken.
No.
Boom.
Well, if you ever want to update or anything, just let me know and we can talk again. Or just send me a link to something if you want to update, and I'll post it around everywhere and stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Cool.
It was lovely talking to you.
Cool. Thank you. You have a good rest of your night.
I will try my best. I'm going to go straight to bed.
Okay. Good night.
All right. Have a good evening.
You too.
Right, bye.